All right, finally, I've been able to learn how to make a net bag. And kind of more of a refined net bag that starts off with a pinwheel or a flower or a spiral with spokes, and you net spirally all the way up to your desired length, and also you're creating your width, your desired width within your spiral. And so I've just been practicing away. Now the source of my information, I have to say, is from Mrs. Sally Pointer on YouTube. I'll put links below. SallyPointer.com. Check her out. Her and her husband are into primitive technology and material culture and within prehistory and kind of living museum type folk. She's very good with, from what I can tell on her channel, she's very good with the fiber arts, knitting and whatnot. So definitely check her out if you want something more refined. I'm real about quick and dirty here. I'm really into primitive tech, something that's functional versus pretty. And you know, that just takes time and refinement to make stuff really pretty and elegant and decorative and stuff like that. But I'm interested in something more ready to go. It tends to be rough, tends to be rustic, but functional. I definitely definitely check her site out. Check out her channel too. It's Sally Pointer, just as it's spelled. At any rate, here's another bag that we're actually going to work on to kind of show you what I learned. And I've done a different type of handle here. This type of handle, if I can get this off here. This type of handle is just like a ring handle, and it's made out of weeping willow branches. And it, you know, for the size of the bag that we made here, it's not it's not very wide. You can't put like something like this honey jar in here. You'd need to make a much wider or bigger bag in order to make use of these handles. But I thought it was kind of a cool idea anyway, and as you can see, I can put fruit in it and small items like that that won't fall through the mesh. So this works pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. That's the one we're going to be working on, and this is a really long and large and big one. And this one is start out with 10 spokes. This is, I think, 12 spokes, 12 loops that I started with. And this one is 20 spokes that I started with, so this is considerably bigger. And then this one is a 10 spoke one, and this one we're going to work on. So like, I'm really happy with this. Something I've always wanted to learn to do. Any diagrams never really did it for me. I couldn't really figure it out. I'm a visual kinesthetic learner, so I learn by watching other people's and then copying or doing myself. So at any rate, yeah, let's get to it, show you how to make a net bag. Okay, to begin our bag, what we'll need is some cordage. I've got some store-bought jute cordage. You can obviously harvest your own natural cordage material and fibers, process them accordingly. Takes a little bit of time, so on and so forth, you know. So just for practice or for expediency, obviously you can have some ready-made cordage on hand. And then you'll need a shuttle or netting needle, and this one I made some years ago. And then a gauge, and the gauge and the netting needle are approximately the same width and about the same thickness. So this is the gauge. This helps us make the holes in our mesh even. They can be larger or smaller depending on your needs. I also have videos on how to make your netting needle and gauge. If you'd like to, I'll put a link below. So to begin this, and this is the tricky part, so I'm going to go slow. So this video may be a little bit long, but I want to make sure that I am recording this adequately for comprehension, because it took me a while to get it. This cordage I'm going to fight with. It's got a lot of twist in it, and it has mind of its own, plus it's got a lot of hairs on it, and they like to bind on each other. So I'm going to try to take this slow. Alright, so basically you make a loop, you know, large enough to fit your shuttle, your loaded shuttle or needle through, and you're going to place or hold your shuttle with your loop like so. And what we want to do is we want to go over, we want this, our running in, to go over our gauge. And then I'm going to go up through the hole or the loop. Go up through the hole, we'll call this a hole. And then I want to go down, so there'll be a loop here, this loop. I want to go down through this loop, up through the hole, down through the loop. Okay. Okay. And so what we're going to be doing is making a bunch of clove knots, clove hitches, excuse me, along the back of our gauge here. So this is the start. Okay, so that's our first half of the clove hitch. Now I'm going to go down through the hole this way, and that'll create a loop, which is this loop here, and I want to go down through the loop. Oops. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that again. Kind of got tangled up again because the end product wasn't what we wanted. So bear with me. Alright, so now I want to go down through the hole and then down through this loop. So there's a loop here. I'm going to go down through that loop. Okay. And pull that. And then I want to kind of cinch these up together. And it's a little difficult with this cordage, like I said, because it likes to bind. And I'll give you a close-up, but this will be our first clove hitch, like that. So we'll do another one, and you try to get these close together. A little bit difficult with this cordage, but it'll all work out in the end. So again, so now we want to go over the gauge, and I want to go up through the hole, down through the loop. And then I want to go down through the hole and down through the loop. Like I said, this cordage has a mind of its own. And then we have another clove hitch, okay? Repeat this again. Want to go over the gauge, up through the hole, down through the loop, then down through the hole, and down through the loop. Okay, then over the gauge, up through the hole, down through the loop, and then down through the hole, down through the loop. Okay, push this over. So now what we have is we have 1, 2, 3 loops, okay? And we're going to go for this size of net bag, we're going to go to 10, okay? So I'm going to do 2 more and then finish the remaining 5. All right, so I want to put this over the gauge. I want to go up through the hole, down through the loop. Get this pesky string out of the way. And then down through the hole. And then, like I said, this cordage, this type of cordage has a mind of its own. And then down through the loop. Then over the gauge, like so. I want to go up through the hole and then down through the loop. And then down through the hole and then down through the loop. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops. I'm going to make 10 for this size bag. You can do an even number, so you could do 10, 12, 16, 20, so on and so forth for different size. We'll call this a different size daisy, because we'll end up making a daisy out of this, or your starting ring. Okay, so we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 loops. This is what we want, so we can remove it from the gauge here. And now we want to take our free end here and just pull them all together. Just pull it like so. What we're going to create is we're going to create a little wheel or daisy or flower, however you'd like to call it, of 10 loops. This is going to be our starter ring or our starter loop. Okay, pull this pretty tight. Okay, and so this will be what we're going to be starting with, and I'm going to be working in a counterclockwise fashion around. All right, so we have our flower or our wheel or daisy, and these is going to create our starting stitches. And what we're going to do is we're going to work going counterclockwise. You could work the opposite way if you were more comfortable or if you'd like. And what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 in the first stitch here, 2 knots, 1 knot, 2 knots, 1 knot, 2 knots, so on and so forth all the way around. Okay, until we come back to the beginning. So how we're going to do that is hold your wheel or flower like so, and I just want to get rid of this string there. And what we want to do is I want the string to come down and over, and I'm going to hold the gauge with my thumb and ring finger. I want the string to come around and over the gauge here, and I want to pick up the loop, the first loop, and we're going to make what's called a sheep's bend knot. Okay, so I want this down, and I want to hold it right there at that point, and then what I want to do is I want to go around behind these 2 legs here, like so. Okay, so I want to go behind these 2 legs and call these legs, right? And then I want to go down through this loop. So there's a loop here that we've created. I'm going to go down through this loop. And then what I want to do is I want to then cinch the knot right at the tip of the loop, the stitch that we caught. Okay. If it goes underneath, you end up creating this sliding noose, and you probably have to undo it or adjust it. Maybe not. The net will work with you, but you want to create a knot, not a loop. Okay. So that was one time. Now we're going to go around, and we're going to do it twice, and then the next one will be once, the next one will be twice, so on and so forth around. So I'm going to go between the legs this time of our loop, between the legs. I just want to go around. Go around and tighten it up, no big deal. And this time I want to go around both of the legs. So go behind the legs and then create another sheep's bend. And tighten it at the top. Okay. This cord is just pretty thick, so it makes a pretty big knot, but it'll work out. It'll be fine. Now we're going to go into the next one, and I want to go up through the loop. Okay. Pull this down on the gauge like so, and then I want to go around behind these two legs, and then down through the loop that I created, and right at the tip of the loop. Okay. And that was one knot. Now my next one I'm going to do two. So I go over the gauge, up through the next stitch or loop or hole, and now we're going to create two. So I go behind the two legs and then down through the loop. Cinch it right at the tip. Then I'm going to go between the legs. Oops, excuse me. Just want to go between the legs once, and then behind the legs again, and then down through the loop. So that'll create our knot there. So by doing so, what we're doing is we're creating a base, flattened more base, okay, before we build the walls up. Okay, so we want to do this pattern 2 1 2 1 all the way around for each stitch or petal in our flower heel here. So next one, that was 2. We go up and we're going to do 1. Go behind the legs, down through the loop. Okay. Then between, that was 1 because we just did 2. So now I'm going to go to the next one and do 2. And then I'll finish the rest off, and then we're off and sailing. Cinch it down on the gauge. I'm holding like this. You can go ahead and push these off if they're getting in the way. Okay. Then I want to go behind the legs, down through the loop. Cinch at the tip. There. So that was 2. This is 1. Wait a minute. Yeah, 2 1 2. So now, yeah, take your time and make sure you're doing it correctly. So I'm gonna go between the legs this time, and then go behind the legs again. This for the final knot on this double stitch. Okay. And then the next one will be single, then double and single, so on and so forth.